Oh, you're here to learn about R. 3 videos in a row. I'm doing good. All right, so here. So let's go ahead and start. So when it comes to this approach, I already downloaded chapter 2 and I put it in the right directory. Let's go ahead and look at that. Okay, so put it in the right folder. And so here in chapters, I already have chapter 2 there. Okay. And just because I want to get ahead of myself, I also have the data for the ETV, chapter 3. And so with that being said, I won't just click on chapter. I would want to click first on the project, gain access to the project. And then once I'm inside the project, and you'll see that you're inside the project right around here, right here. I would then, yours might not say start at chapters. I'm going to start at chapters and then go to chapter 2. Okay. So today we're going to talk about visualizations. Okay. There's a grammar regarding visualizations. That's how they call, or at least denote this approach. I think of it, I more so think of it as layers. And so we're going to need some of dplyr from what we talked about last video. We're going to use ggplot. Okay, we're going to talk about ggplot. That's what we're learning. And then we're going to get the data and some concept from Godot 365 DSH. Okay, so go ahead and run this. Okay. You can exit. These are all warnings. You can just ignore them. All right. So, like I did in the last video, at the end of this video, you should be able to make sense of all this code. So I can go ahead and run it just so you can see what it looks like. And this is what I call a bar plot. This is not the greatest. I don't like it not in the middle. We'll fix that in a little bit. Year and frequency. Okay. And so when it comes to ggplot, you have to first specify the data. Okay, this is the data. And we're piping it into ggplot. Okay, so technically that's the first argument within ggplot. The next thing we have to know is that we have to specify some aesthetics. Okay, some aesthetics. What that aesthetics concept means is the ability to specify the variable that we're interested in. And the variable that we're currently interested in is years. Okay, and so the data set, I get ahead of myself. The data set that we're analyzing is the years and the number of passers within each of the years. Passers, NFL, National Football League. And when it comes to passing, is the person that throws the ball. There's a number of individuals that throw the ball. But at the same time, you say, oh, there's a lot of players that are throwing the ball. I got you. Because it's also different positions. Sometimes a running back might throw the ball. So just be aware. That's why it's so frequent. All right. So going back to the actual variable. So the variables where we specify, the variables that we use, or aesthetics is what we use to specify the variable that we're trying to analyze. Okay. So then from there, you can read a little bit deeper here and why it's important. From there, we can specify the actual mapping, or at least what we want to view, how we want to view this data. And so if we were to run this, nothing's going to show up. Okay. Because we didn't specify how we want to view this. And that's where I would argue a layer. We can specify using a particular layer. So our layer, the next layer that we would want to denote is how do we want to visualize it. And that's what we call a geom. Okay, how we want to visualize it. That's how we call a geom. That's what we call a geom. So the very first thing that we're going to look at is a bar plot. So our geoms can specify the different types of visualizations we would want to see. We have a bar plot, a line plot, a point, which is just a scatter plot, and then a box plot. So when I run this, okay, this is going to give me kind of what we had up there, but with no color, because again, you're going to learn how this works in a moment, okay, with no color and so on and so forth, and no labels as well. So this is where we specified the variable, and this is where we are now saying how we want to actually visualize our data. So we're using a geom bar, which is for a bar plot, and we're saying stat is equal to count. Stat is equal to count is important. If we leave this out, I think it would still work, but it's going to make the assumption that's a count. Let's see what happens. Okay. However, let me actually take one moment and just digress for 1 second and go to environment. Told you I live in an environment. Oh, not that. I'm going to type it in the console then. Or I can type it in the console. View. I want to view this data frame. Okay, so I'm going to say passing data frame. Okay. It should be a capital V. Okay. So viewing this data frame, what's happening when I look at year, it's always to the far right. Okay, so it's it's actually counting the years. If I had a data frame that legitimately had the number of years, so say for example, there's 2019, there's 30, 2020, so on and so forth, I would want to use identity instead of count. So count is legitimately counting. Identity is just the number that is in that particular row. Okay, so that's fine. That's bar plots. Now geom line is, we would want to use this traditionally when we're dealing with time. And so I would argue that none of these are time. I mean, year is time, but it's not one observation for each year. I'll say that again slower. One observation for each year. It's not that. And so what we would want to do is work with a data frame or data set where we have one observation for each time measurement. And so I just made up a data set, annual rainfall. So when you run this, you're going to get different results because we're going to actually have a random amount of rain. Okay, this is coming from a normal distribution. We're saying 12 observations, and we're going to have the mean be 15 and a standard deviation of 1. And I'm saying that this 1:12 is going to be numbers 1 through 12. So 12 time points, 12 months, and then I'm just going to plot it. Here I'm doing a little bit something different. So instead of putting, I did it here, my apologies for not emphasizing it there, but I'm actually putting rainfall data frame as the first argument. I traditionally don't like to do this, but I'm showing you that there's many ways to the top of the mountain, choose one. Many ways to the top of the mountain, no many. Whereas before, it was out in front. Okay. So on this aside, you see how the data frame is created. Again, the reason why we're doing this is because using this data frame is because we want to deal with time when it comes to the line plot. And so x is equal to time, y is equal to the amount of rain, x is equal to time from x, y is equal to the amount of rain from y, and then geom line. And then when I run this is what it looks like. As you can see, this plot is not good looking. Not at all. Within my ETV video 1, I'm going to make some plots from scratch in front of you all, and then you can ask me questions accordingly in class the following week. But this is just a line plot. We can make this look time better. We can make it discrete points. We can, say amounts of rain with capital letters and remove the underscore, and so on and so forth. But this is how you would do a geom line. And notice that there's no input here. I could make the line bigger. And so if I press tab, it tells me more options, more arguments I can change. I think it's size. Size is equal to 2. Let's do that. Oh, it's not size. Look at that. It tells me what to do. All right, it's line width. I always pronounce that wrong. Line width. Okay. Oh, look at that. And I can also change the color. Okay. These are some minute changes that you can do. Make this red. And the thing is, I'm intentionally saving it, storing it within line plot. I haven't made that emphasis yet, which I will soon. But but I don't need that. I don't need to do this. I'm just being more diligent with my programming. Okay. All right. So with that being said, let's continue. Geom point is essentially a scatter plot. Okay. And so the only difference here is that we have x and we have a y, but this x and y we're going back to the NFL data set, okay, this passing data set. And you can see that with this passing data set, we have x and y, they're both quantitative variables, okay, whereas this was quantitative variable. One can argue the way we're treating years is as if it's categorical, okay. So if I run this, no errors, yay. Okay, good. Again, we would want to make this look better. I would say that as long as you pass more, you have less likely, you're more likely to throw an interception, and that makes sense. Or not pass more, that's not what's happening. Your longest pass. And most likely your longest pass means that your quarterback really not a running back or a fullback, and therefore you're going to have a likelihood of throwing an interception. Interception is when the other team catches the ball when you're trying to throw it to your own team. So you don't want to throw it. Interceptions are bad. So that's good. Continue going. For now, a box plot. This one's a little interesting. A lot of things I can mention about this. One of the things I can mention is here we're going to treat TM as team, and we're going to treat team as if it's a categorical variable. It is a categorical variable, but it has 32 levels, so therefore it's going to look nasty. Interception, okay, that's fine. But at the same time, it could just be one box plot. So let's make it one first. I'm just going to make it be one. I'm just going to copy that. Just going to come back to it. Run this. Okay, one box plot. That's not informative. And also, the X, again, we would want to clean this up to remove the ticks. These are tick marks as well as the numbers. Okay, but I'm going to bring that back. And then now I'm going to have 32 box plots for each and every team. As you can see, another thing to note is that the teams are not at an angle, meaning that that's the answer. You should make them at an angle. But the horizontal, or the font is really big, so it's really hard for you to distinguish the teams. Okay, so be aware of that. And then also, yeah, that's fine. So then you can explain what this concept is, why it's important. Another thing that you can do with ggplot is legitimately add or summarize data within the geom. We did that kind of here by finding the count, but we can also do it in another way as well when it comes to actually even finding the mean. So what we're going to do, there's a number of positions. Okay, there's running backs, there's fullbacks, there's quarterbacks, and so on and so forth. What I'm going to do is find the average longest pass for each player. Okay, so I can run this, and I'm going to now see DB's defensive back. Okay, this is the quarterback, running back, so on and so forth. As you can imagine, where it says quarterbacks as tight end, which is really interesting. Very, very interesting. It has the longest pass on average. But I can change my stat. I can make this be max. And this should therefore be the quarterback. Yeah, the quarterback is going to have the longest, the longest pass. And then I can find the min and so forth. So you can do a bunch of statistics. And mind you, there are so many other ways to summarize data within a ggplot. This is just one particular way. You can read on explaining what the concept is and why it's important. And then here we can now move on to making our graph look a little bit more fun, a little bit more jazzy. Jazzy. All right, so what I mean by that is adding color, fill, size, and shape. So when it comes to the color, we can actually make our bins within our bars blue. So look at that. You could also add frequencies at the count, so you can find that out online. But here the only thing now is different is that we're still using stat count because we're counting the frequency. The only thing different now is that we're saying fill is equal to blue. So depending on your geom, you're going to see this in a moment. Depending on your geom, you're going to specify our state, whether it's going to be a fill or is it going to be just a color. So this situation when you're filling in the bars, it's a fill. So that's that. Now, in terms of the scatter plot, this is what I would want to do as shape. Okay? I mean, not shape. You're going to want to specify the color, not the fill. And note where I'm putting my fill. I'm putting my fill within geom bar. I'm putting it within geom bar. And then, in terms of my scatter plot, like I saw before, longest pass in interception, I would then run this. Okay, it works, but that's me specifying the color rather than the fill. Okay, I can then add shape. I can say instead of it being a circle, I can change it to be a cross. Okay, let's run this. I can also, you can look up various ways, different shapes you can do. I think cross, what else did I do? I said star. You can do a star, okay? And then you can also then change the size of the point, okay? Or size of the star at this time. You could change the length of not the length, the width. You can look it up on how to do that. But there's all these different functionalities to change the different elements of your visualization. I really hate the gray background. I really hate the gray background. And so the next thing that we're going to talk about is being able to change the theme, which allows us to change the background. Go from there. So here, this theme BW is added because this is an additional layer. It's last, but it's fine. And it means black and white. So having a black and white layer, which allows us to have black and white, white background and black bordering. Here I'm also specifying X, Y, and the title just so that it looks a little bit better. So this is we're at that plot in the beginning, okay, that we saw earlier, and hopefully you understand how we got here. Okay, so which is nice. This is good. However, I don't like this title being in the mid and to the far left. It's not bolded. It's not bigger. So on and so forth. And so what I did was create a theme. You can create themes instead of just using black and white. I created my own theme within the Godot 365 Data Science this DSH 2024 package, and you are able to now see the difference in that not only is the title centered, but it's also bolded. And you can see that's a little bit different. I have a different background in that the entire square or rectangle is not bolded, or at least highlighted, whereas here it is. Okay, and so we're not going to go into too much details. Again, this is a summer class, but it's imperative that you notice this little small caveat. Not caveat. No, it's a caveat with this particular theme. Okay. Well, that's all, folks. Thank you for, oh, not yet. Sorry, I got ahead of myself. There are a lot of things that I'm skipping in terms of functions within ggplot. There's more details in terms of theme. We may see a facet, depending on how my mind works. I might do some chord flips in the theme in the ETV as we progress throughout the class, and you can also change the scaling. So there's a lot of different layers that you can add to your visualization to make it look nice. Okay, so thank you and have a great day.